Welcome back to the Lost House channel. My name is Anton Vieltsin and I'm a criminal defense attorney in the Southern District of California. In this video, we're going to go back to the basics. We're going to discuss beyond a reasonable doubt, which is a burden of proof that we have in the United States, in the criminal justice system, in order to convict someone of a crime.
It's the Doom of Doubt!
Just in time for my magic hat.
Magic hat? I doubt that.
I love magic and food that's fun. See this burger? I doubt it's true. I'll change it to fries. I doubt it. True and true.
And we're going to discuss a case which originated in my district, the Southern District of California, and went up on appeal to the Ninth Circuit. The Ninth Circuit made a decision that the prosecutor during trial committed misconduct by giving examples of what burden of proof is and what reasonable doubt is according to his views. And the Ninth Circuit said that that was misconduct because he diluted the burden of proof. So let's go ahead and discuss the case. The case we're discussing today is United States versus Velasquez, a case that originated in my district, the Southern District of California, and went up on appeal to the Ninth Circuit. The facts of the case are not that important, but I'm going to discuss them quickly with you so you get an idea what the case is about. The case is about importing controlled substances into the United States in violation of Section 21 U.S.C. 960. Now, I have plenty of videos discussing the guidelines dealing with the statute and the statute itself. I'm going to go ahead and link them above, so if you're watching it on your computer, go ahead and click the link and watch that video first. At the end of the day, there were 2,000 grams of mixture containing fentanyl and heroin that were found in Mr. Velasquez's vehicle as he crossed the border from Mexico into San Diego. At trial, a number of people testified. It was Officer Harlan, Agent Day, and the defendant himself, Mr. Velasquez. Officer Harlan was the first officer that engaged with the defendant. He was the guy at the booth. So as you approach the border, you go through the checkpoint. The officer asks for Mr. Velasquez driver's license, insurance, and so on, permissions to cross, and checks whether there's anything in the vehicle. He testified that during this process, Mr. Velasquez did not make eye contact and seemed nervous. He also said that when he looked into the vehicle had very little quote-unquote personalizations, meaning items that are connected to you. The vehicle seemed very clean and there was nothing inside. Now, during cross-examination, it turned out that the vehicle actually contained some CDs, and so there was some personal items connected to Mr. Velasquez in the vehicle. Agent Day testified as to the documents found in the vehicle, about the vehicle's history itself, the number of crossings, and so on. He was the second agent in the case. And then Mr. Velasquez also took the stand, and he denied knowledge of the narcotics in the vehicle. He essentially testified that he was dating this woman who might have put the drugs in his car, because after all, she and her family have been involved in smuggling of narcotics. But he denied any knowledge of the narcotics. So these are the basic facts. And like I said, they're not critical to the case because the case then turns to what happens at trial and what the prosecutor does. Before the end of the case, the court, the judge, always gives the jury instructions to the jury, how they're supposed to vote, guilty or not guilty. During these instructions, the whole case turned on the reasonable doubt. Because this whole case is circumstantial, the defendant never admitted, he never told the officer whether he knew the drugs were in the car or not. In fact, he denied any knowledge. There was also no other evidence, I guess, on the phone. We're talking about circumstantial evidence. the one that's probably found based on the vehicle and officer's testimony as to how the defendant appeared as he crossed. There was also some testimony as to quote-unquote blind mules and whether Mr. Velasquez could have been a blind mule. This is somebody who crosses the narcotics without knowing that he has narcotics in the vehicle. Agent Day testified that he's aware that there are blind mules often involved in our district, but he testified that usually there's GPS devices found in the vehicle, and in this case, there wasn't one. Hey, sorry to interrupt, but can you do me a huge favor? Can you click on the button below and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already? And if you work in a big corporate setting, why don't you add all emails of all of your coworkers, compose the email to them, urging them to subscribe to my channel as well. I would really appreciate it. But all kidding aside, thanks for watching, and let's go back to the case. Jury instructions become crucial. So the judge read the jury instructions to the jury. I'm gonna pop these instructions right here, but let's go ahead and read them, and you can go ahead and follow along. In the Ninth Circuit, we have model jury instructions, and these are the ones that were used in this case. Beyond a reasonable doubt is proof that leaves you firmly convinced the defendant is guilty. It is not required that the government prove guilt beyond all possible doubt. A reasonable doubt is doubt based on reason and common sense. It is not based purely on speculation. It may arise from a careful and impartial consideration of all evidence or from lack of evidence. If after a careful and impartial consideration of all the evidence you're not convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant is guilty, it is your duty to find the defendant not guilty. So these are the jury instructions that were presented to the jury. Now, at the conclusion of the case, the prosecutor gave his own examples of what beyond a reasonable doubt is. And here's what the prosecutor said. Again, I will populate his examples right here. Go ahead and follow along as I read what the prosecutor tells the jury. The prosecutor gave examples. He said, it is something that you do every single day. So things like getting up, having a meal, you're firmly convinced that the meal you're going to have is not going to make you sick. But it is possible that it might not, that it might actually make you sick. You got in your car and you traveled to court today. It is possible that you may have gotten in an accident, but you're firmly convinced that the likelihood that you'll be able to get to court safely is okay. These are the examples that he gave. Essentially mundane, everyday occurrences, he says, is beyond a reasonable doubt. The fact that tomorrow is gonna come makes you believe that there is beyond a reasonable doubt that tomorrow will come. But that's not what the Ninth Circuit says beyond a reasonable doubt means.
I'm the Duke of Doubt, and I'll prove to you this monkey business isn't true. Whoa! Floating in air, it's easy for me. Magic's only trickery. See, I can do it, standing on my head.
I love magic and food that's fun.
I doubt it.
It's got fun, fun, fun for everyone. Burger King, yay!
No doubt about it, Duke.
Beyond a reasonable doubt, there's three reasons for it. Number one, it protects the defendant's interest. Of course, there's loss of liberty and stigma behind being prosecuted on a federal offense. Number two, community confidence. Of course, we have the presumption of innocence. That's the whole point. That's the fundamentals of our criminal justice system. Number three, the moral force of criminal law. And it should not be diluted by a standard other than presumption of innocence, other than the burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. For the jury to convict a defendant under this high burden of proof, the jury must reach a subjective state of near certitude of guilt of the accused. This is what the Ninth Circuit says. The standard is near certitude. It is not casual, it is not ordinary, it is not mundane, it is not something you do every day. It is a careful calculation of all evidence against the accused and then decision whether he's guilty or not guilty. So because the examples gave such a diluted example of what burden of proof is beyond reasonable doubt, this was a misconduct. So the Ninth Circuit actually remands the case, sends it back to the lower court for new trial, because the whole case turned on whether there was reasonable doubt whether Mr. Velasquez committed this crime. And because we're not sure at this point whether the jury used the proper instructions or whether they thought that there's enough of sort of this mundane, everyday examples that the prosecutor gave, the case has to go to the lower court for a new trial. Hopefully you now understand what beyond a reasonable doubt is, and you understand that it's a high burden that the prosecutor has in order to prove that somebody's guilty. If you enjoyed this video, please click like, subscribe, hit the bell notification button, so next time I post, you'll be first to know.